Lover's chicken. I'm calling this dish Lover's chicken because it's a love story, just not as you know it. One of the things I've loved about working in this space is all the wonderful people I get to meet, and this recipe I'm dedicating to two wonderful women in my life who I've met through doing this work. So one is Karima, who runs Sunday's Kitchen over in New South Wales with her mother, and she is the most stunning Lebanese cook and human. And the other is Dee Williams, who's Sri Lankan and also lives on the East Coast. She was a MasterChef contestant, but is a whole lot more than that, and has done incredible work with other Sri Lankan chefs raising money through the crisis in her country, as well as hosting demonstrations and competing in cooking internationally competitively and producing her own really beautiful spice blends. We had a little love affair on one of her live sort of podcasty things. So the first time I saw Karima make this chicken dish was on her Instagram feed, and she was talking all about how the smell of it just drew her kids to the kitchen, and I instantly wanted to try it. When Karima makes hers, she uses the 7 baharat spice mix, and she gave me her family recipe. Given that it's her family recipe, I didn't want to share it today. So what I have found is that this dark roasted curry powder from Dee, the tone of the spice is essentially the same, and I'm going to talk you through exactly what that means and show you how to apply that knowledge with the making of this dish, okay? So the key to this dish is basically contrast between a really high acid structure and a really dark spice blend. Chicken is the middleman or middle produce, and so we're using chicken Maryland because you want the skin and the bone and the shape. I've made it with chicken drumsticks and it's totally not the same. It's like Maryland is the thing. When we add a lot of high acid to a dish, so there's garlic, olive oil, lemon juice and vinegar. What we're introducing then is that 7 baharat spice mix, or that style of spice mix, which, like Dee's dark roasted curry powder, is very weighted in the pungent, earthy character of spice and has almost no inherent brightness at all. So you're marrying essentially these two ingredients together to come to an exotic middle space. So very, very light, very, very dark. They meet and they don't negate each other. It's like they show each other in a slightly different light, and then tell that story through the produce, through the chicken, and through the carrot and potato that gets roasted in this, that my kids actually almost think is the best bit because the vegetables soak up everything. All right, so I just need to get some olive oil, apple cider vinegar. Okay. So this is Olio Bello olive oil in a Pellegrino bottle, but Olio Bello is a local olive oil farm just up the road from my house, quite literally here in Margaret River. So it's about, I put about a half a cup of olive oil. This is just under a kilo of chicken. So 3 chicken Marylands is normally around 900 grams or so. A third of a cup of apple cider vinegar. Now, Karima, I may be bastardizing your recipe just a little bit, and if I am, I apologize, but you know how it is. You take something into your house and it always shifts a little bit. So Karima puts in a whole head of garlic, which is totally necessary. And would you believe that I actually ran out of garlic and forgot to get it in time for filming? So I always do have minced garlic on hand. Minced garlic is so pungent. It's actually wetter. It's wetter and has a slightly more acidic contribution than fresh garlic. So it's almost a bit sour, but I am still going to heap it in. So 3 teaspoons. Now, this beautiful dark curry powder which is so earthy and nutty, and I guess that's probably a bit of the toasting, and smoky, and a little peppery too. So we're popping this in. I won't use some garlic, but quite a lot, because, so that's 2 big teaspoons. So can I tell you how this recipe started? Another girlfriend of mine, Jane Wilson, who works in publishing, I went to her house to give a little mini spice class and just catch up. I was over in Melbourne a little while ago, and she had made, from the Lanka cookbook, she had made, or taken a lot of time to make a quantity of dark roasted, like Sri Lankan curry powder that she'd used in a recipe from that book, and had some in reserve, and gave it to me to smell and sort of asked me what I'd do with it. And as soon as I put it under my nose, I thought of Karima's Lebanese chicken dish, because it was so redolent of that 7 baharat spice mix. And I love that about culture, you know. I love that, and I love that the emotive quality in spices is universal. So the Lebanese culture has a darkly shadowed spice mix. The Sri Lankan culture has a darkly shadowed spice mix. I know that in Indian regional cultures, food cultures, across the regions, there's different expressions of that darkly shadowed spice mix. And so to understand that it's not, to understand that it is universal, and the tone of that spicing can be translated across different borders for a similar effect, but a slightly different end result, is just very freeing when it comes to spice. Because if you don't have the ingredients for something in your house, you can substitute for something other that you may have, knowing a little bit about why you're using it in the first place and why that thing that you're using is applicable to that task. In my new book, The Spice Companion, it actually goes into that quite a lot. So if you're interested, that's there. But to be honest, with YouTube and with these videos, it's a lot of what I talk about with the recipes. So just keep watching, pick up little bits as you go, and take it on board. This needs 3 lemons, but I have 2.5, so that's what I'll use. Lemon juice splits dark flavour. So the reason I can have so much of that beautiful dark roasted curry powder in there is because we're using so much lemon juice to split the shadow. All right, I might just use 2 because these are big juicy lemons. So discretion as well is part of cooking. Now, there is a little bit more spice that goes into this. So as well as what we already have, we're going to put a little bit of extra cumin powder. So I'm going to say 1.5 teaspoons. It needs seasoning. So seasoning salt. So I'm going to use a teaspoon of a white Sicilian sea salt. Anyone who watches my channel knows how much I love to scaffold my salts. More than one. And then a teaspoon of the fine pink salt. And then it needs some smoked paprika, which is over here somewhere. One of the keys with substitution is not to substitute everything, because if you substitute everything, you'll have a totally different dish. So whenever I'm playing with flavors in recipes that I love, like this one today, I keep the base foundation of that dish classic or classical. So chicken, olive oil, lemon juice, vinegar, paprika, salt, cumin, and then, and garlic, of course, and then substitute that darker note spice. So It's nice to have some kind of familiarity in there, otherwise the whole thing ends up feeling like something else. Now the veggies just get a rough chop, which is nice. And like I said, you know, we can be quite big meat eaters in this house, but the veggies with this dish are the pieces of the puzzle that my family actually die for, because they really do roast in all of that beautiful oil and spice and acidity and become little flavour bombs through the dish. Potatoes too. Vegetable quantities at your discretion. For 3 Marylands, I'm normally like 3 carrots and, you know, maybe 300 grams of potatoes. Because I like having them left over the next day. Okay, now this just gets a little bit of a massage so that everything gets fair coating. Oh my gosh, it smells so good. And then it just gets popped in the oven. I've lost track of how long that's been in the oven for. It's been in the oven around an hour and I can smell it. Look at that. It's so delicious. So I serve that with rice and like, you know, fresh steamed asparagus or something, just for something green, more for the look of the dish than the actual, you know, need to consume random green things. A little bit of the chicken on there as well. It's very hot. The chicken's a really important mouthful. So the acid structure with the oil and that umami juice from the chicken and from the bone is coating all this bottom part of my mouth here like a big water slide of umami savory flavour. And then back behind it, back in this part of the mouth coming forward, is the dark, pungent, earthy spice. And in fact, it's wafting up as I'm talking to you. But so I've got like an amphitheatre of dark, pungent heft here coming around, and then this beautiful acidic, bright umami quality coming forward. So it's like this big funnel of flavour that comes out the front of the mouth. And the top is an open space, and that's what gives that feeling of lightness. It could be a rich dish because it is protein based, but it's really not. It's actually, we're coming into summer now here in Margaret River. This with a little bit of rice and a green salad and a really nice glass of something white and textural and savoury in terms of wine would be a really delicious, easy summer night dinner. That's it. So that's my lover's chicken for Karima and Dee, 2 women who don't know each other but need to know that they've both made an impact on me. And I'm super grateful for the ways in which they've shared their understanding of their culinary history with me and then allow me to transmute that into something that I can share with you. How lucky am I to have women in my life like those 2. Thanks, Karima and Dee.